Okay, in this video we're going to learn how to import data from Excel using MATLAB. So if you have an Excel file with data in it that you would like to import into MATLAB, you must first save the file in the MATLAB folder. Then when you go into MATLAB, you can check that the Excel file is showing up in your current folder. So data.xlsx is my Excel file. You need to open up a new script, save that script, and in order to get the data out of the Excel file and into MATLAB, you name the data set whatever you would like to call it, equals, you do XLS read. The first thing you type in is the file name exactly as it is with the extension XLSX. Then you type in the sheet name that your data is on. So in our case it's sheet 1 with the capital S. Also in apostrophes. And if you'd like, you can also put in a range that your data is in. So for us it's in A1 to B26. Now if we save it, we can run our script to see if it worked properly. And it showed in our command window, so that implies that it worked properly. As well, we have a new item in our workspace called dataset because we named our data dataset from the Excel file. You can also double click on the dataset in the workspace and it will show you your data in MATLAB as well. So it's basically a matrix of this data saved in Excel. Now that we have imported our data into MATLAB, we can figure out how to plot it. In order to plot our data, we need a set of independent data and the dependent data to go with it, often known as our x and y variables. So we can even label these data as x and y. So the x data from our data set is the entire first column of our data. So we can say of data set, of our variable data set, we want all of the first column. So since it's a matrix, we have to call it based on its rows and columns. Remember, it's normally rows and columns in that sense. So we want all of the rows, so we can put a colon in that slot, comma, which columns do we want? For the x data, we want all of the first column. So we can suppress this dataset output with a semicolon, which means the dataset will still be pulled, but it won't show up in our command window, and we can see if our x data shows up properly. We can save and run our script, and it appears that it ran, and our x data is 1 through 25, which matches up with the Excel sheet. Now we can proceed to get our y data. We can suppress the x data now, and y equals, we want from our data set all of the second column, so all of the rows in column number 2. We can run that now to see that it pulled it correctly, and yes, y now equals everything in column 2 of our data set. Now that we have both sets of data, we can suppress the y data and we can plot x versus y. We use the plot function and in parentheses do x comma y, and this will plot x versus y. We run that and our plot shows up. It has defaulted to a blue line connecting all of our data points. We can close our plot, and now to change how it's displayed, we can put another comma in there and in quotes put some key codes as to how we'd like it displayed. So we could put, we want everything to show up as an asterisk, and run it, and now all of our data points are asterisks. What if we wanted them to be red asterisks? We can put an R in front of the asterisk, run it again, and now we have red asterisks. There are other things that you can do, such as a red dashed line. And we can have a red dashed line or a dotted dash line with period dash. So it has the dots on our line. There are many other things that you can look up that can change the way things appear on your graph. Now that we have a graph, we would also like to add X and Y labels to our graph. So X label, use that command, and in parentheses put in whatever you'd like your X label to be called. So for us, we can just call it X data. And for the Y label, you can call it Y data, whatever it may be, and that's where you would put your units, etc. If you run it again, you can now see that whatever you put in that string is showing up on the X and Y axis. You can do the same thing for a title. I'll put it above my X and Y label. Plot of X and Y data, or X versus Y, whatever you want to call it. Run it again, and now we have a title. If you'd like the grid lines to show up on your axis, you can simply type in grid, and now your grid lines will show up wherever you've deemed them to be, or let them say at default. And you have now made a properly plotted plot of your data. If we would like to plot a line with our plot, you have to plot a function of x. So for that we would have to use fplot, and in quotes you can put what your function is. So if I wanted to do 2x, I could do 2 times x and then insert my range. Let's say I wanted to do from 1 to 30. Then I can run it, but as you notice, it's overridden my original plot. It plotted the first one and then erased it in order to do my second plot. To have them both on the same plot, I have to use the command hold on. Then I can run it. It will save the original plot and plot my second one over that. If I want to plot just a value, my function of x for y equals mx plus b would just be the b, so that I could plot a straight line that crosses over the y-axis. So say I wanted my b to be 80. Now I have a line at 80 that goes all the way across, but it looks odd because my data stopped short of that at 25, since that was my last data point. So I can reduce my range to 25 for my line, and now it looks much better. And you can keep adding more lines if you'd like to.